I just now want to talk to you about defining the project. So now we've got the characters established. The next thing to do was to look at how can the characters move. So went to Sketchbook and started to sketch out Argon character and looked at how this could move possibly. It reminded me really of a Weeble and something in material, something quite wobbly, substance like jelly. So that started generating a few ideas. I just sketched them down on paper. In terms of the Gadolinian character, that was more interested in terms of its appeal, its shape, and it kind of conformed more to something like a cloud or floating object that morphed around. So I kind of sort of envisaged this character being something that floated and morphed every so often or morphed quite quickly as part of its movements. And the Californium character, that was interesting but pretty straightforward because of its structure. It's just something that felt like more it'd crane upwards and it just move up and down, so it would feel not necessarily mechanical, but it could be. But it was just that's the kind of movement it'd be, and it would nod its head. Then it was necessary to look at techniques in Autodesk Maya, so we kind of established how these characters might work, but how do we do that technically within Maya itself? So if we look at the nickel character, the first one, if you look at that, what I thought is something bouncy, flexible. So really linear deformers really suit this one. So like squash deformers, bend deformers, and also clusters just to use for the head movement. In terms of plutonium, this is kind of a sprightly character, so it needed to be rigged, and also the use of blend shapes for the mouth movements, which would make life a little bit easier. The slinky character, or the silver, that's once again it needs rigging, and obviously constraints for the eye movements, so the eyes can follow the constraints. Californium, well, let's face it, it's a chilled out character, like all Californians. Um, and decided to use set driven keys because of the movement. It would make life easier in terms of animation. And with the mouth movements or the facial movements, we decided to use animated texture maps. So animating UV texture maps instead of blend shapes. And for the scooter character, or for titanium, this kind of scoots around quite quick. So once again we need to rig the character and make sure it pivoted on the wheel. And then we have the other character, floating character, gadolinium, and like I said before, it floats around. So the thing for this really, if it's morphing, it's blend shapes really, so we can morph between one object to another. And last of all, argon. So springy rubber character, like I mentioned, and the perfect thing for this really, I felt, was something called like a jiggle deformer, which we could use within Maya. So those are just some other techniques. In terms of the actual set itself, how does this function? What does it do? There's only so much you really can do with a set design, or actually, there's lots that you can do, but it depends on the actual shape and form of it. But realistically, what I want to do is just something that could beam a light source onto the centre of the stage, and also something that could rotate. I went to see Cats years ago, and the actual stage rotated, which I found quite interesting in terms of how the audience participated or interacted with the people on the stage. And also, lastly, looking at steps. So obviously you've got these layer of steps that people, top step, middle step, actually introduce that into the shape and form of it as well. So that was really just defining obviously the characters, the stage, and just focusing a little bit more on it.